And we're just gonna wait. Hello, Ava. How are you
Hello.
today?
Pretty good. Thank you so much for having me.
No problem. Why don't you tell everyone a little bit about yourself,
hmm
and about the work we're gonna see on the 20th, which is a TV pilot called Two Countries.
Yeah, so the TV pilot, Two Countries, I was writing this while applying to a couple different things, but the idea came first to me when I was thinking about, they say write what you know. And so I was looking at different stories that I've always wanted to see on TV but haven't seen. And there's so much more Asian American and just Asian representation, off the top of my head, Crazy Rich Asians, The Farewell, different things like that. And I was like, yes, all those movies were really exciting. And I want to see more representation of Asian American adoptees, which is a different like history, story, of course, than, Asian American immigrants, ABC, American born Chinese. And so that's the story that I wrote about. And so, Two Countries is about it has four main characters, and it's about Chinese adoptees who they're middle school age, and they all meet at an adoption camp that's just for a weekend, and they're from many different states, and they all meet at adoption camp and connect over just simply growing up in America, but also growing up in America as Chinese, as a Chinese adoptee with, certain stereotypes that sometimes fit and sometimes don't since you're adopted, and oftentimes your family doesn't look like you. And so that is also a big part of the script, TV
Did you
pilot,
write a
whatever it
plays?
becomes. No, I haven't written plays, though I have my history is in theater, so I've been in a lot of plays and I've read a lot of plays. But I haven't written plays myself. I've collaborated on some devised work, so that's pretty fun.
When it comes to playwriting and screenwriting, there's a lot of differences. And what do you think about how those two mediums are sort of both related and quite separate?
Yeah, so playwriting and screenwriting. The biggest difference for me is actually difference between playwriting and creative writing. Now, like playwriters are probably gonna get angry at me. I'm a very like what's like the word in French? Like a new person. And
Yeah.
so to me, the difference is playwriting and creative writing. I joke the difference is that in creative writing, so for books, etc., you say he said, she said at the end of this line, and while in playwriting and screenwriting, you don't. But both mediums, playwriting and screenwriting, while books, not you write it to be up on its feet. They often talk about this about Shakespeare. You read Shakespeare and it's like boring in school, but it's really exciting when you see it on its feet because you write it thinking that eventually it is going to be played by real people. Um, I'm not sure.
It's been more of a
100%.
collaboration because you need actors to bring alive. Well, yeah,
Yes.
when you just have the text, you have the freedom to sort of explore people's minds and their thoughts
Yeah.
and create it.
Yeah.
But
hmm
those are two different things when you see someone in action.
Yeah. In playwriting, um, sorry, in creative writing, you can also go much more internal because you have that narrator and you can you can say different things about how the flowers bloom or on Sunday only da da da, or how people talk about the book Les Mis talks about French sewer systems for like 20 pages or something.
Yes.
You can't do that in a
Yes.
screenplay. You have to be much more what you see and what you hear.
Yeah. What got you started on this entire journey of being a writer?
Hmm. Well, I've always written stories, and growing up, I kind of was an oddball, and so I created my own stories and created my own imaginary friends. And I told my mom all these different stories with my stuffed animals. I still have a lot of stuffed animals, and I've always loved watching TV and making my own stories. And so my mom started writing them down, and then I started typing them up, and you know, um, that's how it started, I think.
How was your experience? Was Sarah Lawrence College a very arts focused college? What was the experience there?
Yeah, it's a really artsy college. I chose it because it's a small liberal arts college in Bronxville, New York, so Westchester, an hour via train outside of New York City.
Yeah.
And it prizes itself in that you come out knowing how to write. Even if you studied math, you have to know how to write and explain yourself instead of taking tests. And that's something that I really liked about Sarah Lawrence. So I was able to take two creative writing classes. I wanted to take more, many acting classes, psychology. You study a lot of different things as well, and you combine them instead of having one major where you could only study that thing. So dance
Yeah.
thirds study anatomy and doctors, and so you learn about that and you combine them in your projects. And teachers are totally interested in how you combine things you might not think about combining in the first place.
How do you think your studies in psychology have helped you in your writing?
I think I think in general, studying a lot of different things, the liberal arts really helps. And living. So many writers say, people want to get into the TV business or playwriting business, and they just sit and they write, read all the books, and they know a lot, but they don't live. And so living, having life experiences adds to your writing, just like knowing different things about psychology and different things about history and art history. You could put those all together in different ways. A word of psychology might come up, you might be thinking about something and you kind of somehow remember like Lovaas and his
Yeah.
behavioral analysis, right? And I don't know how that might come into a story. You might think of a psychiatrist, or you might just think, okay, well, people like rewards, so maybe this character is really based on rewards, and this other character is taking advantage of that. And just different things coming to mind through knowing a little bit about a lot of things.
What were your inspirations when it comes to writing and film?
For writing, some of my inspirations, this one is not a speculative fiction or futuristic fiction, but I really love reading futuristic fiction. I still haven't gotten through 1984 yet, but that's the book that I'm reading currently. I also love, Brave New World. I read this interesting speculative fiction called, oh, now I'm going to lose it. Civil War Land in Bad Decline by
Ooh.
yeah, it's a really good book by I can't remember who it's by now, but Civil War Land in Bad Decline. It's a book with short stories in it, but that's like the main short story, and it's speculative fiction. So the Civil War Land is kind of like this weird Disney World's theme park. It's in bad decline. It's kind of like, going out of business, and the person who runs it is very strange, and speculative fiction takes our world and like flips it. So, it might be totally normal, but we might have zippers for mouths, or people's skin is green. And it's not 100% flying cars. It's kind of in the middle. And I find that really fascinating, along with Friday Black, another book of short stories written by this author. His last name, it's a very long last name, is Brenya. And I believe he makes a lot of critiques, because he's a Black man, about the race issues in America and across the world. And so his stories are really poignant, but you read it and then you get the message. It's not shoved down your throat in a non-entertaining way. And that's what I also like about stories that have a message, but not a shoved down your throat message. You still are enjoying them when you're reading them. So that's some of my inspirations, along with I really love the Pretties series, which is also futuristic, totally futuristic, by Scott Westerfeld.
Uglies? Does it start with the Uglies? Is that?
Yes.
Is it?
Yeah, that's the book.
Okay.
I've
read it.
Books. Yeah. I read them a long time ago, but I feel like I need to read them again. Yeah.
What are you?
Yeah.
Are you still going on?
Well,
Okay.
I was just thinking, because like for the one that I wrote, is mainly inspired by my own life, not books or plays that I've read. Though also just more Asian American representation I saw, and that it's time to continue that.
Yeah. You mentioned a few recent Asian American films and works. What's your favorite amongst all of these so far?
Okay, so sorry, I'm like adjusting because my hand's like getting tired, so now I'm using the other hand. So people were watching for 2 seconds. I thought it was gonna be a Zoom, so I had like my computer ready, stacked up on like 5 books, and then
I have my
Keeland emailed me.
I have books and a candle. I have the whole setup.
Keeland emailed me. Well, I didn't know. Keeland emailed me like, "No, you just joined the Instagram live." I'm like, "That's on my phone. Like, where's my phone?" So, what was I gonna say? Yeah. So my favorite thus far, just because it's, a spectacle and also a really great story and kind of, um, fun to watch, great characters and actors, is Crazy Rich Asians, which I also
Yeah.
read the book first before. I read the book,
Yeah.
heard it was going to be a movie, so I read the book faster, and I really loved the book and the movie. And I heard there's, he's now, every book
Yeah.
he writes, they want to make into a movie. And I'm like, can I please be an extra? Like, TBH, I want to be in one of his movies. They look amazingly fun, and they break the stereotypes of just, what people think of. I think
Absolutely.
people think of China as, some people think of China as underdeveloped, not modern still, and that movie totally goes beyond that and says that there's a gazillion different types of Chinese people, Asian people living.
Yeah. And we're gonna have our final question
Mhm.
now. Where do you plan on taking these skills in writing, and what do you want to do with that?
Yeah, so I really hope that straight off, the bat, a simple answer is I hope to write for TV. So, simply start as a what's the level? Like
Writing.
a staff writer on TV. I love stories about Asian American representation, and also I love neurodiverse representation. So simply, writing for TV, or film, but I think TV a little bit more because it's collaborative, and I like working with people, bouncing ideas off, and working with people who have been in the industry more than me and that I can really trust that they know, instead of just writing alone in the dark in my room, as some people explain for film, which I think once you get going, you can do that.
You should
That's
live
my
in
opinion.
caves.
So I also hope to just, yeah, so that's the first step, possibly. The simplest step. Then, like, a little bit harder, continuing acting in TV or film, and, collaborating on helping with diverse representation, maybe behind the scenes as well.
Absolutely.
I also
Okay.
love languages and translating.
Uh, I've done some translating gigs. Those are interesting.
Yeah, you have to tell me more about them later off Instagram Live.
Okay. All right. We promised to keep it short. We're gonna keep it short. Thank you, everyone who's here and watching. We have more people on Twitter, I believe, if
Oh, cool.
we do the Periscope things. But thank you so much for talking to us.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited. This is my first time doing Instagram Live interview.
Yeah. Well, have a really great rest of the night, and thank
Thank
you,
you.
everyone, for watching. We're gonna sign off now. All right.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye, everyone.